Welcome. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at these NAKOOS 3-piece plier set. So these were provided to me by the distributor, but they're not compensating me for this video and they're not reviewing it before I post it. If you find this video helpful and you want to purchase some of these, I'll put a link to them in the description on Amazon, and if you use that link it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So in this set we have some needle nose pliers, side cutters, and lineman pliers. And here it says material is 1055 carbon steel or chrome vanadium steel, double color heavy duty insulated handle, finished polished satin, black nickel plated, chrome plated, nickel alloy. So I think there's variations of these pliers maybe. So I will open them up. This zip tie's broke already. Guess this is nice. I can just use these to open themselves. There we go. So there's a little bit of oil on there, which I'm fine with, but I'm on my tech bench here and I'm trying to keep it clean. So let's pull out a tape measure here. The lineman pliers we have at 8 inches, side cutters are at 6.5, and the needle nose are at 6 3/8. Let's open these up and look at the jaw size. That's 2 1/8 on the needle nose, 1 inch on the side cutters, and 1 3/4 on the linemans. And then the cutting blade on the linemans is a little over 5/8, and the cutting on here is 3/8 on the needle nose. So I'll check the play in these. I can feel just a slight bit of play there, slight bit of play there, maybe some there, but that's pretty tight there. So let's take a look at the needle nose. So the tip does touch and then there's a gap past that, so that'll give you the maximum force on that tip. And there are some recesses and serrations in here to help you grip things. So if you're gripping a screw or something like so, now obviously you'd use a screwdriver to get this screw out, but if it was stripped somehow, you could grab that with those serrations. It's going to dig into it. And here are the side cutters. And those two are meeting up here and there's a little bit of gap down below, but it's very small. I don't know if I can show that easily. Maybe that's coming through if I put the light behind it. So that allows you to cut with the tip of that. And then going to the lineman pliers, I held this up to the light and you can't see any light through the cutters here at all. So these also have the serrations in them. Check out the tip here. So that is flush on the right side here, and on the left side there's a little bit of a gap, but that's pretty good. So I would consider these more of a budget plier. You're buying a pack of 3, so I'd say this is a pretty good value. Now certainly you can buy higher end pliers. You may not always need higher end pliers. So this could be a good set to keep in your car or RV. One thing I like about this is that it has the high visibility on here. So if your car breaks down, you're working on your car, cut something with these pliers, you set them down in the engine bay, you can easily see them. Or if you set them down on the ground, that's going to be very visible. So I like that aspect of them. So let's see how they feel in the hands. I find them to be comfortable. These are a little smaller, but they fit my hands. I'm not going to be doing a heavy wrenching with pliers this size. Now these all do have crimpers here below the pivot. Now none of these have springs in them. I tend to not like springs, so springs would keep them open, so you just squeeze them closed. But I tend to just put my ring finger behind there to open them, and I find I have better control that way. Some people may like springs, that's just not my preference. I own maybe 1 or 2 pair of pliers with springs in them. So let's test this on some things. So I looked at that screw earlier, but I have some different wires here. So with the needle nose, a lot of times you're bending things with that. So that seems to work pretty good for that. And with side cutters, we're often cutting things. So let me try and cut this without it going flying. I'll cut it with the tip first. Okay, that cut nice. Now I'll cut it closer to the pivot. Now one thing I'm seeing here is there's a little gap here at the bottom of the blade. It doesn't go all the way to the bottom. So if I try to cut this wire all the way to the bottom, that's not going to cut very easy. So I have to bring it up just a little bit, and that should cut easier. So I was cutting slow so it didn't fly off. You can cut very fast with these, obviously. These should cut the same. So this cutter does go all the way to the bottom. Okay, that cut easily. And the lineman cutter goes all the way to the bottom. So this one had that little gap, the other ones do not. I guess I'll cut with this, but this should easily cut this copper wire. This is a 14 gauge copper wire. Okay. This is some aluminum wire. I'm not sure what gauge that is. So let's see if I can bend this. Not easily, but this is very thick wire. I could probably bend it with this, maybe. Okay. So that gripped it very nicely. Don't know if these will cut it. Let's try. Oh yeah, that cuts it easy. And we can cut it with the diagonal cutters. And with the linemans. That cut really easy. So these have good leverage on them because they have bigger handles. So now we have some 10 gauge wire. This is 4 pieces. So this is not going to cut easily, but I can try anyway. This is a little bit big. So that's going to be a little tricky to cut. So let me actually, I wonder if I can pull this insulation off. So we can get to the conductors here. Then I could cut these one by one. So that was a pretty tough cut for that because I'm cutting right on the tip. These will be a lot easier if we cut towards the bottom. Of course, these linemans will cut through this pretty easy too. So that's a very easy cut at that point. So here's a nail. So this is not easily cutting through this nail. I'm not saying you couldn't. Let's try a smaller nail here. And that cut through that pretty easily. So I'm just giving some examples here. A person will need to consider what they want to use them for and determine if these are going to meet their needs. So I think these would work well for a general shop use. I think they would work well in a car. You're not going to find a whole lot in a car that's going to be outside of the range of what I cut here. A lot of the stuff will be easier because you'll have stranded wire to cut, so that should cut relatively easily. Usually in emergency repair, you're not going to be cutting something like a nail or even wire that's this thick. There are cables on cars that are very thick, but usually you wouldn't cut them in an emergency. You might have a cable come loose and you need to cut it and strip it and then wrap it back together, and you could use these tools for this. You could also use this like baling wire to hold up a broken muffler with some baling wire, things like that. So I like this. Comes with a variety of pliers here. Comes with the diagonal pliers, the needle nose, and the linemans. I use all 3 of these types of pliers regularly. I really like the linemans for doing heavy duty work. I like these for more precise work. These work great for electronics and such if you're snipping leads and such. These are good for twisting things, picking things up, holding things. So I think it's a great beginner plier set, or it's a good second plier set, or it's a good plier set to say put in a car, RV, toolbox. If you want pliers in your office or kitchen, I think these work great. Even a desk drawer. I don't know how many times I've been opening up a package and it has zip ties on it, so it'd be nice to have an extra set of diagonal pliers around to take care of those. So I think this is a great option to fulfill that need. So those are the NAKOOS 3-piece plier set. That's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.